let's talk some Saints. I saw an interesting little write-up from the folks over at Saints Wires, part of the USA Today network, about some players and positions that they'd like to see the veterans take a back seat to some of the young talent. And this, it makes some sense. We all understand where the Saints are, and you'd like to see young talent get to the field. And most importantly, you'd like to see young talent thrive and start to build the foundation of that next great Saints team. There is also a balance here where you can't tell a bunch of veterans to go sit down. We're going to play the guys who have no skins on the wall, who are maybe worse than you, and going to get your brains beat in while you sit on the bench and collect your checks. Like, there's a little bit of a decorum here in terms of fielding the best team that you can, with an understanding as an organization that there is a need to get some young players on the field. So some situations warrant more playing time for the youth, some maybe not. It starts at linebacker in this piece on Saints Wire. It says they need to sit Pete Werner at times and get Danny Stutsman, Jalen Ford, Isaiah Stallbird to the field. Pete Werner's in his 5th year. He started 58 games for the Saints. He's a pretty good player. But I would suggest he's a liability in coverage. When you get Pete Werner in space, he hasn't been great. And I do not subscribe to the thought of sit Pete Werner down and just get the young pups up there. I think that you can involve the young players here. Danny Stutsman has not played a defensive snap yet. I think that needs to change moving forward. If you want to wait 2 weeks and wait till all the Saints get home to do that, okay, playing a lesser team, I'm fine with that. I'm not in a rush here. They've played 2 games. But I think Danny Stutsman is a guy I'd like to see on the field. And I do believe that the Saints will get him to the field at some point. The first 2 weeks of the season is early. But I would like to see some of the younger players, namely Stutsman, but you can include Jalen Ford in that, get some time for Pete Werner. I think that absolutely makes sense. You don't tell Pete Werner to just put his helmet up and sit down. But I like some of the potential in the linebacking core there. The next position up on this discussion is right guard. And at this point, this is not a secret. This is not a hot take. This is not a unique opinion. This is not a lot of statistical research. Cesar Ruiz has been atrocious for the Saints. He's been awful at right guard. He's regressing. This is not a guy who's been awful his entire career. He's never been what you thought he would be based on where his draft selection was, but he's been okay. He's been awful for the first 2 games. I mean, you can see some of the video on Twitter where the Niners were moving Joey Bosa inside just to get a piece of Ruiz, and he manhandled him a couple of times. They don't have a very obvious replacement for Ruiz. Ruiz's cap hit is just north of $6 million, and Dylan Radins and Torricelli Simpkins are options. Do I know that they're better? No, I don't. Would I like Ruiz to improve? I would. Is that likely? Probably not. Now, it's not like Dylan Radins is some spring chicken that they just drafted. He's been in the league a couple of years. He's played a little bit. I think if you move on from Ruiz at this point, then you're just giving up on him, which I'm probably not ready to do. You don't have to extend his contract or anything, but I don't know that you've got an obvious... I don't have as much hope for Radins or Torricelli Simpkins as I do for Danny Stutsman. Like, I'm not in that camp. And I'm also about creating the best environment possible for the quarterbacks. In this case, it's Spencer Rattler. So I'm not in a hurry to throw Torricelli Simpkins out there at right guard. It's probably not him. It's Radins once Penning comes back. And maybe that's better. And if you put that on tape or you rep that in practice and it looks better, then I'm for it. This to me is less a decision about the right guard spot in the future. It's more, how do we give Spencer Rattler the best chance to succeed, which in turn gives these Saints the best chance to succeed. I will listen to options outside of Cesar Ruiz. He's been the worst guard in the NFL to this point. But I'm not like begging to get one of these replacements in based on their contract status and age. I think just put the best guy out there, and it may be Riddance. It could be. We'll see. At cornerback, you got Isaac Adam, who had a terrible game on Sunday. He was awful. He was trailing all game, just could not cover against Mac Jones in that passing attack. He was better in his first stint with the Saints. Like, he was better than he was on Sunday. So maybe that was just a bad game. But the replacement for Yadam could be Quincy Riley, who I do want to see. And there's always a possibility for rushing someone to the field. And I don't want to do that because the Saints, as I just mentioned, are not in a rush. They're not in a rush. But you got to find the time to give these young pups some playing time and understand they're going to take some lumps. Yadam's cheap. It's not like, he's a guy that you've got to a long-term deal that you've got to improve and get reps to. And you can play him some, but I'd like to see Quincy Riley play because Quincy Riley is a guy that you've invested an early round pick in, and this goes back to the conversation we've had 96 times. You need the draft picks to hit. Need them to hit. And Quincy Riley is a guy that you heard a lot of good things about in camp, heard some good things about in the preseason, and I'd like to see him out there on the field. So, yeah, I'm for that. You need Alontae Taylor. You need Kool-Aid McKinstry. You're taking a look at your safeties with Sanker, and we'll see what happens with Howden. But Riley's in that mix. And through 2 games, opponents have successfully targeted Yadam on 9 of 10 throws for an average of 10 yards per catch. So he's not giving you anything through 2 games. I'd like to see Quincy Riley get out there, see if he can make some plays. I'm about that. So I think you're getting a little bit of Kendre Miller. That's good. I think your tackles are out there playing. I think that's good. You're going to get a long look at Trevor Penning now that he's coming back to the lineup, and that's good. Brazee is playing a lot of snaps. That's good. There's some on this roster that's young that is getting to the field. And then you've got this group that's kind of waiting in the wings that I don't know if it's the 3rd week of the season, 5th week of the season, 9th week of the season, but at some point, I think you're going to see these guys get to the field. And I'm not saying that because I think that's what they should do. I think you're seeing that the Saints have eyes on the future. When you trade for a player like they did on Saturday in Polk that's going to be out for the year, you have an eye on the future. You're not trading draft picks for a guy that can't play if you don't have an eye on the future. So I think that move in itself, coupled with they're not making big splashes in free agency, they're not kicking the can down the road with salary caps anymore, like they are embracing a reset, and part of that is getting young players to the field with the understanding that it might not work out. You might send a guy out there and he's overmatched. It happens. But you won't know until you send them out there. I'm all for getting Danny Stutsman out there. I'm okay with whatever guard you think is best. And Quincy Riley, absolutely. Get him to the football field. I want to see it, and I think there's upside. There is a way, and it's hard to say from here and now, there is a way that this team can go 3-14, and we can look up in mid-January and go, there's some stuff that looks pretty good here. That can happen. I'm leaving the door open for it. I don't think it's blind homerism. I don't think it's unreasonable. But you're not going to feel good about it if you continue to play these veterans who aren't playing well. You don't let the young players get to the field, and then the veterans move on and your young players have no experience. The only way to create that optimism and to cultivate that young talent and to get them to be producing on the next great Saints team is to let them play. And I'm not telling you it has to happen this week in Seattle, and I'm certainly not telling you you need to throw all the pups into the deep end when you get to Orchard Park and see Josh Allen in a week and a half. Not a great spot to introduce a lot of guys to the NFL. But the home weekends against the Giants and against the Patriots, let's see some of these young guys. I'm ready. So hopefully that is the way that the organization feels as well. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.